Hello, Cornerstone Church. Pastor Phil here, coming to you on day 13 of our 21 days of prayer and fasting. I hope that this is a wonderful day for you. I hope there's breakthroughs in the Lord, that we take some great steps forward in Him and continue to press on in our fasting. The second week is almost done. Remember at the beginning of the week I said this is the hardest week. So the second week is almost done. When we go into next week, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully we sprint to the finish line. That will be great. Two thoughts on day 13 in the material that we have going here today. In the 21 Days of Prayer and Fasting Guide, day 13 is titled Sacrifice. And he says, are you tired of fasting? Fasting is a sacrificial act that realigns our affections, moving them from the temporal to the eternal. It turns each moment of craving into a prayer of intense dependence. That's a really great idea, that as you fast, as you go through whatever you're going through, whether it's a physical feeling, an emotional lack of something, missing something that you're used to. Turn each of those cravings into a prayer to God. Every time you feel your stomach churn, or your mind saying, we haven't eaten yet, or whatever it may say, turn that into a prayer to God. Use that as a way to focus your thoughts, focus your energies, and realign yourself with the Spirit of God. It is a sacrifice, most certainly, but everything about our Christian life is a sacrifice. We looked several weeks ago in Romans chapter 12 about staying at the boiling point. What does that mean, to stay at the boiling point? And when we tried to address the question of how to do that, we saw in Romans 12, 1 and 2, where it says that we are to offer our bodies as living sacrifices to God. So everything about our lives then becomes a sacrifice. And each one of the members of our bodies, we offer our eyes as a sacrifice to God. We offer our mouths as a sacrifice to God, to become an instrument of righteousness for Him. So really everything about the Christian life is sacrificial. And fasting just brings that to the forefront. It makes it more prominent in our lives. And hopefully we can grow in that as we do that. As we struggle, as we feel feelings of different kinds, longings, cravings, we turn them into prayers to God. In the thought in that same guide, he says, if religion requires us to sometimes fast and deny our natural appetites, it is to lessen that struggle and war that is in our nature. It is to render our bodies fitter instruments of purity and more obedient to the good motions of divine grace. That's an amazing thought. The reason why we do that, or why we do this, why we engage in spiritual disciplines in general and fasting in particular, is to render our bodies fitter instruments of purity, to align ourselves more with the Spirit of God, and just to build ourselves up. Really, it's no different than physical exercise. The pain of physical exercise means that your muscles are being toned, means that your muscles are being built up, and that's a good thing. That pain is a good thing. In the 21 Dangerous Prayers, day 13 is taken from Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8, where it says, "Here am I, send me, O Lord." And that's what the prayer is. In Isaiah 6:8, it says, "I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, here am I, send me." That's a powerful picture in Isaiah. And it comes out of Isaiah's vision of God. In Isaiah chapter 6, the beginning of Isaiah chapter 6, Isaiah has a vision of God where he sees the Lord high and lifted up, seated on the throne, and the train of his robe fills the temple. And as the angels around the throne worship, crying out, "Holy, holy, holy," the ground underneath him shakes. The doors and the foundations of the temple shake as the angels in heaven praise the Lord. That's an amazing vision of God. And one of the things I say all the time is that we need constantly to have an Isaiah 6 or an Ezekiel 1 vision of God in our lives. Because what a vision like that does is it refocuses our lives. It sharpens our focus. We don't think about the petty things of life anymore. We don't concern ourselves with the minor struggles that we go through and so on. We've seen the glory of God, and it refocuses us onto the mission of God as well. When Isaiah saw the Lord, it changed everything. The first thing he realizes is his own sinfulness. He says, "Woe am I! I'm a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips." And then he experiences the forgiveness of God as the angel takes the coal from the fire on the altar and touches his lips with it. And I heard Henry Blackaby say a long time ago, Isaiah's ears were not open to God until his lips were cleansed. When his lips were cleansed, then his ears were open. And it signifies the importance of obedience. And we saw that recently. Obedience precedes guidance. Well, cleansing precedes calling. And we can't hear the calling of God. We can't even hear the heart of God until we've received that cleansing. But Isaiah does all that. He sees the glory of God. He repents of his sin. He receives forgiveness. And then he hears God. And he hears the heart of God. The heart of God is, whom shall I send? And who shall go for us? The heart of God was for his people, to touch his people. But he needed someone to go take the message. And it's at that point that Isaiah says, "Here am I, send me." So I hope and pray that as we continue on in our fasts and wrap up this second week, that maybe we'll be more sensitive to the voice of God in our lives. And maybe we'll have a greater idea of God's burden for the lost or God's burden for people. And then maybe we'll cry out as Isaiah did, "Here am I, Lord, send me. What do you have for me today? What is your mission for me this day, that I might glorify you through it?" And may God send each one of us on the mission that he has for us in this life. May it pay benefits into eternity as well. God bless you. Have a beautiful day.